Hey, I'm Jeff Schroedl with Blind Pig Records, and you're listening to Talking Blues with Mako. Good to be with you today.
So I am intrigued to find out which came first, your love of guitar or your love of the blues? Or neither. Who knows?
Yeah, good question. They both came roughly at the same time, I think. I would say guitar maybe first if I had to choose, but pretty soon when you start playing guitar, at least electric guitar, when you bend a string, you can't help but hear the blues. So I think pretty early on, I was an electric guitar player when I was young, and I heard that string bend and definitely found some blues from that, and it's been a long and winding road ever since.
How old were you when you started playing the guitar?
I think I was 8 years old. I was pretty
Wow.
young, and you know, I I wasn't a quick study. I went through a couple of different guitar teachers. I tried it, I put it down, I tried it again, and it wasn't until I was maybe in my early teens that it finally caught on. And I think it had a lot to do with the teacher and a lot to do with just me being immersed in music and wanting to do it more than ever.
And by this time, are you playing the blues or were you thinking about, were you playing more rock?
I was listening to more rock, but I immediately liked the blues and so I was playing a little bit of both, but more rock certainly in my teenage years, and in my late teens and 20s, it was a lot of jazz.
How did that conversion take place? Or that interest?
That's a good question. I think the more I got into just dissecting music and listening to music, I just I gravitated to some jazz. I mean, in the same ways that I got back into blues, but I was just trying to find everybody, and I was pretty intrigued by a lot of different musicians, and jazz was kind of my thing for several years actually. I mean, I've still listened and I still played blues and rock, but I got pretty heavily into it, into jazz for several years.
And did you think at that point that you want to make a living being a musician?
Yeah, oh, I mean, I think I did. I was into a lot of things, and I was like a lot of teenagers are. But yeah, by the time I was 17 or so, I absolutely expected and planned to try to make a living in blues. Absolutely, or sorry, in music. Yeah.
Okay, so the thing that intrigues me, and to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you wrote a book about how to play the guitar at a very young age in your teenage years. Is that correct?
That's correct. I was a little bit of a book, a music book nerd, I guess you could say, and and yeah, I started teaching guitar when I was, I don't know, maybe 17 or 18. I had several students, and I have to write everything down. I'm one of these people I have to write everything down. And so I would do that for myself, and then I would start doing it for the students. And pretty soon, I just said, you know what, I have some ideas, and I put them down. I think the first book was called Amazing Phrasing, and it was sort of I don't know, it was kind of a interesting phrase book. It was actually for all musicians. It wasn't only for guitar. That one wasn't. But it got picked up by a distributor by the name of Jamie Aebersold, national distributor, and that felt good, and that kind of got me into the book publishing world a little bit.
Well, what did you learn about it from that experience? What did you, I mean, did you, obviously it was much easier than you thought, is to write this book and all of a sudden it's being distributed. I don't know how successful it was, but what did you learn from that experience?
I wouldn't say it was too successful, but I learned a lot. Learned a lot about kind of just kind of doing things on your own. You're finding a printer, you're finding a layout person, you're doing marketing, you're doing design, and I was pretty young. And one thing led to another, and I wanted to do more, and I eventually did do more in the book, a lot more in the book business, certainly. Um, but yeah, it's an experience, one of my early experiences, I guess, trying to do some things that were I don't know, just just you got to do it.
Well, it's impressive. I just wonder at that point, are you confident as a teacher that you have not a system, but something worked out that says, this is something I want to share, this is something that I could tell people how they can learn the instrument?
I don't know. Back then, I think I was just trying to figure things out myself, and if it worked for me, it might work for others. I'm not so sure I had a grand system back then, but yeah, it was I was able to organize thoughts and ideas, and that was very very early. But yes,
And then that eventually led you to getting a freelance job with the Hal Leonard Publishing Company.
kind of yeah. I was a transcriber, and I actually started freelance for another company called Cherry Lane Music, and I did some work for them. They were based out of New York. I was living in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee here, and then I started a company, music publishing company, to make books, and I was having fellow musicians write books, and we published a couple of them, and then kind of between transcribing music and doing some authoring with other people, Hal Leonard called at that point, and I became the first staff guitar editor for Hal Leonard. It's a long time ago. This is about 1994.
Can I assume that you were a very good guitar player at that time to be able to do this?
Well, looking back, I've certainly gotten a lot better since then. So, but yeah, I think over the years I've gotten much more diverse in my musical background, and I've learned a lot through the years of being involved in so many different styles of music and different things. But yeah, I could play, and I was gigging a lot all over Milwaukee, and I always have. I have not. I've been gigging all my life, even though I've worked day jobs and things like that. So
Okay, so how difficult was that to have a full time gig and also work all over the place and tour and
yeah, and a family,
yeah,
and things
that
like
too.
that. So yeah, I mean, I think there were maybe a couple of years where I didn't maybe play as much as others, but I've played consistently, all of these years. And it is tough. It is tough to balance things, but yeah, I'm still doing it.
So I wonder what you learned from that, the experience of writing books and publishing them, and I guess understanding the legalities of publishing music, to being a musician. How helpful was that career path for you as a musician?
I think it all kind of ties together. I've been in content creation. I've interacted with lots of management companies through the years, lots of artists, lots of PR firms, digital e-commerce, booking agents, radio promoters. I was on the media side in the 1990s. I headed up a couple of guitar magazines. In the late 90s, I headed up Guitar One magazine, which ended up being Guitar Magazine. A long story, but so I was on that side of things, and I was getting pitched by publicists and artists and putting guitar players on the cover of magazines, and that kind of thing. And so I have a little bit of a media background as well as content creation and recording, obviously. And I've recorded all my life. I've been involved with performing and recording all my life as well.
And so you've been with this band, Altered Five Blues Band, for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the founders. There were back, I think it was 2002. And we were starting just playing here in Milwaukee. And just covers like everybody else. Kind of a local blues band. And then along the way, we started writing, and we it took us it took us two or three albums to write something that was pretty good. We thought, but eventually we kind of did, and I think it took us. I mean, we were playing clubs for a long time. I mean, 10 years before we actually got our act together. So we weren't exactly an overnight sensation, but yeah, I think it wasn't until 2014, that Altered Five kind of found its way, and we did a record called "Crying Mercy," and had some good original songs on it, and got a lot of notoriety, and it kind of took the band. That was kind of the beginning of Altered Five really kind of taking off.
Tell me about the Milwaukee music scene, because it's probably not that far away from Chicago. I presume a lot of blues musicians came up your way.
Yeah, I mean, before my time, going way back, you had, all of the greats, would come through town. And I mean, heck, Paramount Records, if you go way, way, way back,
Right.
Paramount Records began in Grafton, Wisconsin, which is just a northern suburb of Milwaukee. And so, yeah, there's a very long history of blues. And then all of in the 60s and 70s, blues musicians did dates all over town here, but that was before my time, obviously. But I would say, there's been a pretty good scene in Milwaukee, and there still is to some degree, just not a lot of great clubs any longer, But there's some great harmonica players in town, pretty nationally known, like Jim Liben and Steve Cohen, and in fact, Steve played on an Altered Five couple of records, and yeah, there's bands doing it. There's a few clubs. Certainly when National Blues comes to town, they hit Milwaukee usually. We and So yeah, it's been home of Harley Davidson and beer and all sorts of stuff like that. So it all goes hand in hand with the blues.
Why blues more than jazz? If in your 20s kind of drifted towards jazz.
Jazz, very strong jazz in Milwaukee. There's some very talented musicians. There's a lot of jazz programs here in town. Um, to this day, there's a few solid ones. So there's a lot of musicians have come from Milwaukee and gone on to some pretty good things in different areas.
Sorry, I meant you yourself.
Oh,
When you got into jazz, why did you not pursue more of a jazz band as opposed to a blues band?
I mean, I did. Well, I can tell you, it's a pretty simple thing. I did play jazz. I played a lot of jazz. I played not a lot of solo jazz guitar, but I played a lot of trio and quartet mostly. And I did a jazz album with a trio album with a couple of guys, Ben Hands and Mark Salveson, and a lot of duo gigs. I even played in a big band for a while
Oh,
as the jazz guitar player around town. But honestly, it was I always loved blues, and I don't know, something about jazz. It was too laid back and just not enough fun, right? So I just I don't know. I like bending strings and playing a little louder, and I just love the blues. It's a it's a much simpler form on the surface, but it's not really simple at the same time. It's hard to explain, but yeah, I wanted vocals. I'm a lyric person. I wanted songs. I'm a song person at the end of the day. Not that jazz doesn't have songs, but it was mostly instrumental jazz that I was playing, and I don't know. I just got a thing about blues that kind of drew me in.
well, it's obviously served you well. You've been doing this for 22 years.
Altered Five.
Sorry, with a band?
Yeah, yeah, Altered
Like,
Five. I think maybe, yeah, 22, 23 years, something like that. And we're still playing a lot, and we've put out I think 7 albums, and yeah, we've had a lot of fun, no doubt.
okay, so one of the things one of the other things you do is recently you got involved with Blind Pig Records. I'm curious about that because the music industry has changed a great deal, and you know, you have a choice to start a label. You could have started your own label. What was the decision behind taking Blind Pig's name? And I don't know how much the catalog is involved, but obviously they have a history with the blues, as opposed to creating your own label.
Sure, I could have gone either way. You know, I had a connection with Blind Pig through Altered Five, and so that I certainly knew kind of where things were at, and it's just an incredible brand. And I don't know, I just felt it was a great legacy there, and I felt it would be fun to carry that on and try to find exceptional artists and carry their brand. It was really a shame that Blind Pig kind of went away, and not, to no one's fault. Certainly, the founders, were getting up there and older and had every right to retire. But but yeah, I was talking with the label division, that acquired Blind Pig from its founders for a couple of years, and I floated the idea, and they thought it was interesting. We talked a little bit more, and eventually I talked with the original founders because I wanted them to be aware of it and to buy into it, and talked to Ed a couple of times. I had lunch with Jerry in Chicago, and here we are. so so yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a leap of faith. Certainly, certainly there's a lot of risk in it at the same time, but I'm excited about it.
Can I ask you, as a band that was on that label, I presume you were there when the decision was made that the Blind Pig would, I don't know if it's cease operations. I guess they were so bought out
Yeah.
by Sony and Orchard Music. I don't know, as a musician on that label, what that change did to you, if anything.
Yeah, we came in right afterward. Altered Five did.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I knew Ed. I had talked to him, emailed him a couple times, but no, it was right after that where the Orchard had acquired Blind Pig at the time, and we had. It's it's kind of a confusing story, but Altered Five had a relationship with the Orchard prior to the Orchard acquiring
Okay.
Blind Pig, so there were a lot of connections there.
How different is the business that you're in of publishing music books to publishing music like Orchard does? Or music publishing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there is a big difference, but there's some connectivity between the two.
Yeah, I mean, there certainly are. There's both, I think. I mean, um, there's a lot of, obviously in the marketing side, you've got digital marketing and design. A lot of those sensibilities are the same. Distribution, you've got physical brick and mortar distribution, and then you have e-commerce distribution, and then you have streaming and things like that. That's the same really as the publishing side of the business. And so there's actually a lot of similarities. Um, on the content side of it, trying to create high quality content, the same as trying to create high quality recordings. But yeah, there's a difference in terms of songwriting and certainly and recording than the other side of the business too. So, but yeah,
So you make up your mind to pursue this, to restart Blind Pig. And I don't know how active Blind Pig was under Sony and Orchard, but you decide that you want to put your name behind it and do some work. Can I ask you what goals you might have? What you hope to achieve by doing this?
yeah. I mean, I want to put out great albums that people listen to over and over and over again. I think people love the blues. I mean, good blues. I don't. It's more than blues fans listening to good blues. um, and I just, I want to help people. I want to help, exceptionally talented artists reach their potential. I mean, I have fun doing that. I have fun with the whole process. I like, the song side of it. I like the recording side of it. I like the marketing side of it. It's not always easy, but I don't know. I felt it was an opportunity to bring together a lot of things that I know how to do into one. and to give it a try. So I don't, I'm not sure what success means exactly, but hopefully, it's not an easy business. For every album you put out, sometimes a small percentage can be successful, but again, depends on how you define success. But I think first and foremost, putting out high quality albums that people say, I love that album. It starts there. It starts with the songs and it starts with the voice and the music. And without that, you really don't have a whole lot. So,
Right. So you've already signed two acts in addition to the band, your band,
yeah, yeah.
and both of those artists have come from the South. They're both American Idol participants. I wonder if that the national exposure, and we're talking Jovan Webb and Sunny Gullidge.
Correct. Yep.
Right. So both of those artists have had TV exposure. I don't know if that automatically means that they come with a certain following or not. And I don't know if it's just a coincidence that they're both Idol participants.
Very much a coincidence. Yeah, they're both from Louisiana. Another total coincidence. Prior to Blind Pig's relaunch being announced, I was reaching out to some people, and obviously since Blind Pigs announced, I'm talking to a whole host of other people now, and looking at some new projects. But yeah, the first two, they're different ways. I mean, Sonny Gullidge has been performing and kind of cutting his teeth, you know, um, performing in Europe, performed in Brazil, different blues festivals in the U.S. So you know, he's he's had some prior experience, and that was really something that I liked. That he was out there with a band and doing it, um, and has just a ton of potential. I mean, just vocally as a songwriter, as a person, I just think he's got a huge future. So, sometimes it's hard, really hard to break new artists. I mean, it's a challenge when you start from the ground level, and people don't really know your name a whole lot. You have to really, really work at it, and it's probably not going to happen in one album. Quite honestly, it can, but that's not the norm. So, but yeah, I just again, I thought both guys were exceptional in many ways. I mean, they have rare talents, singing for sure, rare talents as just artists and performers, and what they were wanting to write about and sing about was real, and so I kind of started there. Both that being said, both are very different. They're different styles, different approach, in a good way. You know, so. So yeah, the Sonny Gullidge album was released in August, and the Jovan Webb record was released just a few weeks ago in October.
And how's the response been to both the artists, but also to the label's resurrection?
Extremely positive on both. I think again, Blind Pig has had such a great reputation for the right reasons. And I said right out of the gate, look, I don't want to do this and put out just, I want to do it right. I want to put out really solid music, and hopefully people feel that way. I mean, we're going to hit different styles of blues along the way and roots music, as did the founders. I mean, they put out such a variety of music in the roots landscape, and we plan to do the same. So no, a lot of people excited. We brought T-shirts back and merch, and I'm wearing a Blind Pig hat right now, as you can see. And so we've sold some merch again, and so from the label standpoint, great. And the artists, the reviews have been phenomenal. So hopefully, both of these young artists, you know, um, people follow them, and they grow their careers. And but no, certainly they've done a lot of interviews. They've had some great press. They've had some really strong positive reviews. So we're off and running.
So you said breaking new artists is difficult. I can imagine it's more difficult now than it ever has been. Was there ever thought to, at the very beginning, sign a more established act who's been touring for years, who have as a following already
Yeah,
versus new artists?
a little bit. I mean, certainly we're talking to people now, and that was certainly an idea. Keep in mind that Blind Pigs relaunched wasn't announced, so it was a little difficult to speak with some people at the time, not knowing where things are headed. But and so many of the great artists, they have record deals. A lot of them do. But I've talked to a variety of people since, people that have been on the Blind Pig label, people that are, you know, um, been around for a time, and we've been pitched on all sorts of great artists. So yeah, we absolutely anticipate um, Blind Pig being a home for, established artists, new artists, and everything in between.
Well, I can imagine you're a very popular person right about now because, I see more labels not maybe going under, but slowing down and not doing as much. And I guess the part that I don't really understand about the current state of the music industry is if CD sales are down greatly and people are reliant more on streaming, which doesn't generate a lot of money, and album sales are better than CD sales, but sometimes I wonder if that's only because CD sales is so bad. It's not like album sales are going shooting through the roof or anything. So, in your mind, like I don't know what you hope to achieve. Is it really hoping to sell a lot of CDs? Is it getting a lot of streams? Is it selling a lot of albums? Or is it really just creating good music and establishing new artists?
Yeah, well, we certainly want to make money and have things sell. So I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
all of the above. I think, CD sales are what they are at this point. Certain segment, small segment of the market still buys them. Vinyl has had a rebound naturally. But I think it starts with great recordings and content, and then we let the people consume it how they want to consume it. By and large, right now, that's streaming, and there's a lot of different streaming outlets out there that hopefully in time will add up. I mean, the good side of streaming is you can be in any part of the world and get connected to it, as opposed to maybe in the 1980s, it'd be harder to reach a blues lover in Brazil, for example. So there are some positives certainly to streaming, and it's been doing a little bit better, and still people downloading. So I think it's really a combination of all of the different revenue streams, and we have to figure out how to tap all that. And
And like, do you have numbers in mind that says, this will be on the right track if we reach this level, or is that just impossible to work that way?
yeah, I mean, yeah, certainly have to have a budget for every project, and some projects might be a higher budget, and some projects a lower budget. I guess it depends on kind of what's possible in the artist. Certainly there's other advantages to owning masters and having publishing rights and administration and things like that can lead to good things, but sometimes it's longevity too. I mean, look back at Altered Five, and shoot, our early recordings didn't do much of anything, but there is a bit of a snowball effect where an artist sticks with it, and pretty soon their back catalog is generating some money, for many years to come. So I think it's a process. It's not easy. I think no doubt about it. It's not easy, but we're trying.
Had you ever released something on your own? Like, I don't know if you've done like an independent release, so I don't know if this is your first venture into running a record company of
Yeah, I
sorts.
mean, I've certainly worked with a lot of different. Yes, on the Altered Five side, we've done that certainly, and I've just been involved in a lot of different recording projects with different people, and talked to a lot of different labels. I've been in touch with labels of all kinds through the years, and lawyers and managers and agents and all that kind of thing. A lot of artists too. So, I've got a lot to learn. I'm not naive about that, but at the same time, yeah, I have enough of a grasp of things, that hopefully we can make it work.
I wonder what has surprised you, if anything. What have you learned that you didn't like you were surprised by in getting involved with Blind Pig?
Um, well, that's a good one. I can't put my finger on really anything that's been a total surprise. I would say certainly we're learning, every day, every week, we're trying different things and testing different things, and some things work, some things don't work as well, some things we knew would work. Um, but yeah, it's going to be different from artist to artist as well, and the artists obviously, play a big role in it these days. I mean, I think that's true for any record label, that the artist, there's a lot on them. They have to be good self promoters and influencers of their own, and that's just that's no different than a book author or anything else like that these days.
Does it make you change your approach with your band, with the experience that you've had with Blind Pig, in the way that Altered Five does things?
Yeah, I think it's all related. I think yeah, I've certainly learned a lot with Altered Five and different things, and applied that, and vice versa. Sure. Yeah, I can't give you a great example off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, I've we know I've known some of the international media. I've known some of the radio outlets through the years that can make a difference. That can move the dial. It all adds up.
Tell me about Altered Five and what you guys are up to these days.
Yeah, we're still kicking it. Playing. We don't play maybe in tours as much as some bands out of our own preference, but we released an EP earlier this year that's done really well, and we're playing all around. We're going to be up. You're in Canada. I think we're going to be up there next year. We'll be in Europe again next year. The band's been kind of all over blues festivals and clubs in the States. So yeah, we're doing it. We don't have any new recordings scheduled at this time, but yeah, we're still working the one we just released. And yeah, I mean we're out and about. So be in Chicago in a couple of weeks, and um, here in Wisconsin a couple of dates.
Is the latest one, is that the one that has Jason Ricci on it?
The,
Or is that the
the,
previous
the
one?
last two, the latest one is called Testifying, and it's
That's the
it's a,
five song
it's a
EP.
5 song EP, and Jason's on three of those 5 songs, and the record before that was called "Holler If You Hear Me," and Jason was on there too. So yeah, he's terrific,
Yeah, he's one of a kind.
no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, he gelled really, really well, just musically. So yeah, we loved having him back. Appreciate having him back.
Like, why a five song EP?
It was just kind of what we are in at that point. We Who knows what we'll do in the future, but yeah, I wouldn't expect Blind Pig doing a lot of EP releases, but we had 5 songs. Wanted to kind of crank it out in a day and just kind of keep things simple. We didn't do a physical release on that one. There was a 20th anniversary vinyl that came out about a year before that, so we'll see. We're talking about new stuff now, and we'll see what happens.
And you said the writing really didn't gel until like the third album, but how is the writing now, and how does that, like, I don't even know how you have time with the
Yeah,
band,
yeah,
with your day job, with running Blind Pig, to also write songs, oh, and with your family
yeah,
and
yeah,
God
yeah.
knows what else.
Yeah. I tell you, songwriting, I like it, but it doesn't come easy. It takes me a lot of time to even if it's a basic song. A lot of times, it's just some people are very, very fast, and some people are slower. I'm getting faster, but I'm still I'm still slower. But I do enjoy it, and I take it seriously, and I've learned a lot about songwriting, and
How does that take shape? Is it just is Are you writing down ideas constantly, and then you sit down and say, let's do this, or
yeah,
how
I mean,
does
a lot of times the idea, I don't know, things start in different ways. Some people start with the music, some people start with a lyric. Usually, it's a concept or a lyric, something like that, and the music usually comes afterward for me. Sometimes, if it's an Altered Five thing, I'm kind of sitting down with JT, the singer, and picking his brain on some things, and it just varies. For the latest two Blind Pig records, we're trying to get songs to the artist, and they were wonderful writers. They wrote nearly all of both records, you know. Um, but I did contribute a song on each of those albums that they happened to like and turned out well. So it
Is that easy to have a song of yours and to either give it to your band or to give it to your artist? Do you know what I mean? Or do you, when you write it, do you know this really isn't for the band? This might fit somebody else better.
a little bit, yeah. I mean, in the song with the Jovan Webb song called "Living Reckless," I co-wrote that with Tom Hambridge. It started with me. You know, I'm talking with Jovan. I knew that it would be a song that would resonate with him, and he texted me right back and saying, "I really love it." You know, but so that one was written certainly with Jovan in mind, and some of the other ones not necessarily. Usually, if it's an Altered Five song, clearly connecting with something on the Altered Five side, and that's known. But sometimes I have songs that just come up, and you just never know. They might not ever get recorded, or it might be a fit for a certain type of artist, but not someone else. But yeah,
And you also mentioned Tom Hambridge, who's producing those two albums. I understand it's a coincidence that
yeah,
he's not the in-house producer for all projects, but
no,
you're
definitely
working
not.
with somebody who's very special.
Yeah, I just was kicking things around with Tom, in 2023 and told him about Blind Pig, well before the announcement. And I said, look, I got a couple of new artists and just want to see if you're interested in either one. And if you're not, it's understandable. And he came back and said, no, 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 I want to do both. I really like them both a lot. So we worked it out. Yeah.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, and he's so malleable. He takes the right approach for whatever artist it is. He can stylistically he's super diverse, and his personality just he's capable of just about anything, honestly.
Okay, so tell me, at this point, we're in November of 2024. You've just released those two albums.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you measure where you're at, but let's begin with that. Like, at this point, where you're at in November with two albums released, is this what you thought it would be?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I think it is. I think there's been a lot of good and a lot of learning along the way, but yeah, I think both guys, I think it starts with the recordings. I think the biggest unknown was going to be the recordings themselves, and I was extremely happy with both recordings, the songs, the singing, the just everything about the records. I think turned out great, and so I think that's right. I think now the hard part is just trying to keep at it and promoting it and helping them evolve as artists. I'm not a manager, so I'm not involved in that side of it. But I'm certainly talking with them and trying to participate and help where I can.
When you say you want to start a label and you talk to different people, how open and how helpful are other people, other labels?
Other labels?
Yeah, I don't know if you talk to other labels, but I get the feeling, especially in the world of blues,
Yeah.
that it's not a competition. It's
Yeah.
all everybody's kind of in it
Yeah,
together.
I know some. I don't know others. I've met a lot of them, and yeah, they're very friendly. I'll tell you, Alligator and Bruce Siglauer. He lives nearby. He has a home here in the Milwaukee area, and so he and I have been friends for many years, and had lunch and things like that. But I called him before the Blind Pig news, and I just said, "Hey, I just want to give you a heads up. I'm making the crazy decision to get in the record business." And I think it took him a little bit, by surprise, and he said, "Wow, that's crazy. So you're my competitor." But then he said, "You know what? Anybody who's trying to do right for the blues is not a competitor; they're a friend." And he said, "Let's do lunch. Let's talk. Let's do lunch, and I want to help you wherever I can." And so it went. I bought Bruce lunch as he was chatting up. And he's very kind. He's very kind and welcoming, and said, "Hey, let's glad to have you doing this." So I've met a few other folks along the way. I've had a lot of people message me and with good thoughts and things like that. So
Okay, I read somewhere that you're hoping to release maybe 4 albums a year.
I am. I'll say 2025 is going to be not that many. We've
Okay.
just. I'm trying to get a lot of things lined up to where, just there's a lot of work in terms of just resetting different things, and so we're behind on that for 2025. We've got some projects that we're close to green lighting, and but I think eventually, yes, I think there'll be a little bit of a gap now, but after that, I think it'll be, you know, yeah, maybe 4 albums a year. It doesn't have to be that. Whatever is the right album, we'll do it. Could be less, could be more.
Well, I mean, I can imagine for a lot of musicians out there, because the part that I don't get is for a musician, especially in, well, I guess in any genre, but it's such a tough time to go in the studio, record an album, and hope to make money back on it.
Yeah,
Especially when you're doing it on your own. And depending on who you know or what the circumstances are, going into the studio could cost a lot of money. Or you can go in for cheap and come out with a cheap sounding record.
yeah,
So, I often ask artists, like, what makes you want to do this? And I know that most musicians do this because that's what they do. But it's hard to justify the cost of incurring a new recording and then hoping to make that money back. So the fact that you have a label, I can imagine a lot of people would be contacting you and saying, "Hey, I want to release another album. I just don't think I can do it on my own. Would you be willing to listen to it?" And you must be really
yeah.
popular.
Well, there's quite a few blues labels right now, and putting out doing some good things. So yeah, we're one of them. But yeah, people have reached out. Some of them come at it all different ways. Some of them have been through the recording and process and been through releasing albums and have a lot of know-how, and some of them nothing at all and everything in between. So, and we're happy to talk to anyone, in that regard. Again, I think it just comes down to the artist, and again, I just want to put out high quality recordings. So, and not that everybody wants that, right? But yes, we're like a lot of labels, we're going to be picky about it. If we put a lot of effort into it, a lot of time, we want to absolutely believe in it. And again, not that other labels don't do that, but but
Yeah.
that's part of it. So
Do you have a favorite thing that you do? I mean, because you've done so many different things with your publishing company, with the record company, with your band. Is there one thing that you like more than others?
I mean, I like it when the creative process comes together. I like listening to the mixes. For the first time. That's always a lot of fun. Getting the reaction from people. They listen to the album, whether that's radio or media or just fans, and saying, "Wow, that really love that song," or "That song means a lot to me." I've had a kind of the gamut on that of people just you know really genuine comments. I think that makes me feel good, and sometimes people bring up songs from a long time ago, or in Sonny Gulledge and Jovan Webb, just watching them kind of go through it and getting great feedback and appreciating that, and that leading to other things. So just seeing people grow.
That's great. I thank you for your time. You've taken your time out of a busy time when you've just moved
Yeah.
in. You're, you're running many, many things, and I really appreciate you doing. Is there anything? I mean, those are the two artists that you're working with right now. I presume there isn't anything else that you can talk about at this point.
Correct. Nothing I can talk about. We've got a larger project we're kind of kicking around, and then a few other things as well. So, yeah, nothing quite yet though.
Okay,
Hopefully
well,
soon. Yeah.
Jeff, it was a real pleasure, and thank you so much for doing this, and thank you for doing what you do, because I just think it's great.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hey, Talkin' Blues, that's a great name for a podcast. So, so I hope you have success and a lot of people listen in. And yeah, appreciate you kind of giving me an opportunity to plug Blind Pig and kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah, my pleasure, and I look forward to speaking to some real artists.
You got it. We will
All right.
absolutely all of
All right.
them. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.